Welcome to the Speaking Podcast. You can find all our episodes on speakingpodcast.com. We're also on BitChute and YouTube at Speaking Podcast. I have 4 other podcasts: the Learn Polish podcast, the Meditation, the Awakening, and the Crypto podcast, as well as being a podcasting coach. And you can find everything on roycollin.com. Today, my guest in the USA, an author and coach. Please welcome Janelle Anderson.
Hello, how are you?
Very well, very well. So you might let the listeners know, who's Janelle?
So Janelle Anderson. I am a coach. I call myself the confidence guru for women entrepreneurs. So I help them build confidence in who they are and what they do, and especially around speaking, because as an entrepreneur, you need speaking skills so that you can get yourself out there and attract business, attract clients. And so I found that a lot of women don't have a lot of confidence, especially when it comes to speaking. So I have several programs that help them with that. And I also do quite a bit of speaking myself. And I'm an author, just recently published a book. So coach, speaker, author, and, really loving what I do. And I have courses, mastermind programs. I coach one-on-one. I do all that stuff. Okay. So that's me.
So I'd like to know your journey to speaking, because I know just from writing that you're like myself, a late bloomer getting to the stage. I mean, I'm only about 5 years since I became confident. Well, started the speaking journey with Toastmasters. So, yeah.
Wow, very good.
I was terrified prior to that.
Yes, me too. I was never confident, especially speaking in front of the room. I would feel like I wanted to just disappear and my mind would go blank. My mouth would go dry. So I started I was a teacher, so I always spoke in front of the room to kids, but speaking to adults is a completely different thing, right? So about 3 years ago, I realized that in order to really grow my coaching business, I needed to do a lot of speaking and get on podcast summits, live in-person stages, just get in front of my audience and share my message and what I do. So I began to work on, I was good at like teaching workshops. I could do that without any problem, but that's different than speaking a message on a stage. So I decided I needed to work on speaking skills. And I didn't go to Toastmasters, but I went to a program called Speaker Sisterhood, which is similar to Toastmasters, only for women. And I loved it. It was online at the time. And I decided to open my own Speaker Sisterhood club, franchised club here in where I live. And so we met in person for the first year. And then, of course, COVID hit. So now we're all online. We've stayed there. But it's been a big help to speaking, building speaking skills. You create a speech, you ask for certain feedback, you deliver your speech, you get feedback, and then you work on the skills, whatever the feedback was, and you do it again. And so that began to really help me a lot to craft a speech and to write one that's not filled with a lot of extra words and that really has a message and deliver it. And then I started diving into storytelling, so that I could include stories in my speeches and do it well. And now I love that so much. I'm teaching other women how to speak and tell stories. And then I learned.
Groups is there in that organization? It's the first time I've actually heard of that. Is there many?
Not many. It's actually pretty new. And so it started with a woman up in Massachusetts, locally there, and they had several groups there, and then other women in other states started theirs, and then during COVID some of them closed down. So it's coming back again. I think we have 5 or 6 is all, but
because I had founded one of the international entrepreneurs Toastmasters group, and when we weren't allowed to meet in person, it was we didn't enjoy doing the Zoom calls. We've done it for a while, and it just so we've thrown in the towel, unfortunately. I don't enjoy the online meetings. It's totally different.
It is totally different, and I'm hoping we can meet in person again. The thing is, now I'm getting women joining my club from all over, so I'd have to keep them online.
Well, let's talk of kind of doing them hybrid, that you have this screen and everything.
Yes.
I suppose like somebody watching the person on the stage that's there giving an evaluation is no problem, because if anything is probably they've less distractions from the room, they can probably give a decent. But
yeah, we may try that. I don't know, but it is totally different. I would much rather speak in person. When I started diving into storytelling, I have a story that I had a hard time telling because it was a lot of trauma from my distant past, but it was things I hadn't talked about in years and decades, really. And when I started sharing the story, I would only just like tell it from a really high up, like general, like, hey, I did this. I never would like dive into it. And then I learned how to tell a story really well and bring people into the moment with you and make them feel like they're right there with you. And so the first time I told that in person was amazing, on a stage in a room full of women. And it was just electric. Like the connection was so tangible almost. Everybody in the room was crying. They were all leaning in. It was like, oh my gosh, what an experience that was. So I want to get back to in-person speaking for sure.
And like what I think is when you share something traumatic that has happened to you, because what I've noticed is it was more of a financial wipeout that I had at one stage, but I had no problem talking about it. And the amount of people that actually say what has happened to them, and I know it's the same with a trauma. I can assume that when you actually open up and on the stage, I know it's difficult, but when you do it, the amount of people that haven't told anybody are able to come up to you and tell you their story.
Exactly what happens. And in that one, I actually still in touch with some of the women who heard me speak. And since then, my book came out. And so one of them wants me to come and speak in person to her little group. So it has an impact. And this particular woman is like sharing with me all of her past trauma, and she hasn't been able to share it. And so it gives permission to people to be real with themselves, and to know that they're not alone. And, holding it in and not telling it is what gives it its power over you, basically. And if you get it out there and you realize, hey, there's many people who have suffered lots of things and I'm not the only one. And so it removes the whole stigma and the shame. And you realize that you're a human being who just went through some tough times. It really loses its hold, its power over you. And it does empower other people to know that they can also share their stories and get it out. So that's been a huge benefit of me sharing mine.
And like, because I know that some people, like, I'm able to talk about different things that's happened and I don't relive the moment. And, I'm assuming the same with you, but some people can't, because you can actually see that they go back into the time. And it's like, have you any kind of techniques for people to, that they're not reliving it, but they're just telling it. They go, it happened. It can't be changed. I don't have a time machine, but that, because the message is going back into their cells, and they, then they'll have sleeping issues and just, they go down.
Yeah, exactly. And I always tell people, don't speak about a story publicly that you have not processed through to the point where you can, share it. You can still feel some of the emotion from it. I mean, I always say when you're telling a story, you've got to feel some emotion for your audience to feel the emotion. But that doesn't mean that you're going to be a puddle on the floor. If you're going to completely like lose it, then don't share it yet, because you're not ready. And there's a point after you've processed through all that trauma that then you can share it. You can still remember it. You can still feel some of the strong emotion, but you're not, going to be up late at night and you're not going to relive the trauma. So if you're in that place where you feel like you would relive it, then you're not ready. I wouldn't share it yet. Get with a therapist or someone and really like process all the way through it and get to that place where you can speak it without reliving. I mean, the first time I ever said it publicly was years ago. It was at a women's retreat, and I just kind of blurted it out, and I was not ready to really share it. And it still triggered me a little bit. But that day, I had women coming up to me all day, thanking me for sharing my story. And it was sort of like my first like coming out kind of thing. And I realized how important and how powerful it is to share your stories. And they were saying, all of them were like, now I know I can be open and share mine and get the help I need. Because if you can get up there and say, tell your story, then I know I can share mine. But it was still a long time before I was actually ready to share it in a way that was bringing everyone into a moment and in time, instead of just saying, hey, I did this thing. This thing happened to me. This was different when I shared it, recently from that live stage and had everybody in tears. And like, I could feel the tears too, but I knew I was in total control, and I was not reliving it, but I was sharing it in a powerful way where people were right there in the moment with me. And I didn't have to tell the whole story, just shared like enough that people understood, wow. And they were connected with me in a much more powerful way. So there was a difference between the two, for sure.
When you're on stage and you're telling the story, which is obviously, because people, one, it'll trigger something in them that has happened, or two, they'll kind of follow you on the journey depending on your storytelling skills. But do you actually try to bring them back up then during your speech, that you're not kind of ending and everybody's in a like there's a
everybody's like, no. Together. Yes, definitely bring them back up. Oh yeah. So yeah, and really, when you tell a story or you're speaking, there should always be an objective at the end. Like, you want your audience to leave feeling a certain way, or maybe ready to do something from your whole speech. And so that ending is, where I'm always going. And so, I tell the story to show like the hero's journey, right? The valley part of my life. But then here I am now, and this is what I've done to get here. This is the transformation that I went through and the healing that I experienced through. And I have this process, I wrote about it in my book, so I usually talk about that. This process I went through, and this point in time where I realized I needed to face the demons from the past because they were holding me back. And so I did some things, and I got help, and I got healing, and I forgave, and I looked at my past, and I started to realize what was really true and the things that I believed were not really true. And, so I take them there. I take them through the whole process, and where I am today is so completely different. And so that empowers them to know that not only can they share their story, but they can actually find healing and find the other side, and come out confident, which is my thing, right? Come out confident. And my book is called Take Center Stage, Be the Star of Your Own Story. So I want to take them to that place where they feel like I can walk out on center stage of my life as me, no shame, no fear. And I'm the star of my story. I can be everything that I was created to be, and I can live fully in that place, and not be held back anymore. So that's where I want to take them. Right. That's where I take them at the end. So
in the book, then, are you talking about your own journey, what's happened, and then the process for trying to help the different people to overcome the fear of, one, getting the message out, and two, to get comfortable on stage?
Yes. Yeah. The book starts, the actual introduction to the book is a real attention grabber, because I just bring them into this moment. And then what I do is I go into, that's where I was, and fast forward now into my 50s when I realized that I had to deal with my past. And so then the book is really like that process I went through, and I come back to the story a few times. But while I'm doing that, I'm taking everyone through this process. So the book is really a self-improvement book. And then I tell some other stories as well from some of my clients, and also some other more recent stories of things that are relating to what I'm talking about. And it has a workbook with it too. So it's really self-help. Here's my story, but here's what helped me to get where I am today, and to really walk into my purpose and be a confident, happy person who can own my entire story and all of that. And here's how you can do it too. And here's some examples. So when I started writing the book, I went through my journals. I've been journaling for 30 some years. And I saw this journey I had been on. It's sort of like this process emerged. And I was like, oh, I kind of went on this path, from the moment when I kind of woke up and realized I need to work on some things all the way through to where I'm now. And I remember sitting there thinking, I feel like I'm taking center stage of my own life. And that's where the title came from. And so in the book, I start every chapter with one of those journals and, explain like where I was in my life when I was writing that. And so they kind of see my own journey along the way, but they also can take action in their own life. And there's specific exercises I give them to do, things to do that you can take this story of mine and apply it to your own life and do these things to help you, begin to see. Like one of them is called, it's about the path of destiny, because there was a time when I really realized that I needed to make a choice and do something about this thing hanging over my head. I was sitting in church and my pastor was teaching on path of destiny. And he was saying that everybody has one. Everybody has a purpose why we're here. But that doesn't mean you're automatically going to fulfill it, because you can choose to go a different way. And I remember sitting there going, oh my gosh, what path am I on? And am I fulfilling what I was created to do? Am I really walking my path, or am I just wandering out there off my path? And so that's one of the exercises, is to sit down and look at where you're going in your life right now and where do you want to be? And if you were on this path of destiny, I call it, where would it lead you? If you could live your dream life and really fulfill everything that's in your heart, what would that even look like? Because a lot of times people just kind of keep walking the path they're on without thinking about that. So it's things like that are in the book, that because my whole desire was to not just write my story, but to make my story have an impact in people's lives and help them better themselves and help them have a transformation, because otherwise it's just a story.
But yeah, I think that's a very important thing that you've included, because I remember I went to an event and it was kind of, what's your quest? And it was like, kind of made you think, because we all chug through life and just do the thing. But, if you have a quest, it becomes bigger than you.
Yes.
And, the mission and the life and you get more energetic and everything by just having it.
Yeah, purpose and meaning, and there's a reason to get up in the morning. And I really believe all of us have something we were meant to, and it may be more than one thing. I don't think that we have just more than one thing to do, but we have in us, woven into our DNA and who we are, certain things that if we are pulling from that and that's what we're doing, we're pulling from who we are, and we're not just doing something because, that looks like a good career and that will make me money, but I don't really like it that much. But if you're like living a life that comes from really understanding all that makes you you and all the strengths that you have and the gifts that you have, and then how can I take all of this and make the world a better place and leave a mark and leave a legacy and make a difference, like that's a game changer as far as like fulfillment and satisfaction and motivation and energy. And I really believe all of us have that quest or that path. It's just a matter of finding it, discovering what it is. And that is a journey, discovering that. It doesn't just show up. You just don't automatically know it. Most people anyway.
Exactly. And is it this year that you've released it? How long is the book?
Yes, out? January of this year.
Okay. Yeah. So regarding the promoting then, so like, because I know some of the listeners, they either want to write a book or they've written a book. So I know that going on podcasts is a great way of actually getting your message out. So what other things have you done? And even perhaps talk about your journey being on different shows as well. Oh,
sure. So that was my newest book. I've actually I wrote a book. I self-published a book in 2017. It was more of a spiritual journal, prayer journal. And it was some of those journals that I was talking about, but I made it into like a devotional. It actually started off being a gift from my mom, and I wasn't going to publish it. I just like took all these journals and put them into book for her. And then my friend was reading it and she said, "Oh, I'm using this every day as my devotional time." And I'm like, "Oh, maybe I should publish it." So I did. And then I'm a contributing author in a couple of other books. So that's been cool because, I can actually say I'm a published author, and it's kind of like, wow, I'm a published author. How cool is that? And even that's a journey, putting your thoughts on paper and publishing them and putting them out to the world. And you kind of have to let it have wings to fly on its own because you don't know who's going to read it, and it's out there, But one thing that I really discovered in that process was this knowledge that nobody else had exactly that combination of words and stories other than me. Like only I could put that out there. Other people are writing about similar topics, but nobody could put together the exact book that I just did because it's part of me. And that's a part of like my gift to the world, and whoever really needs it, I believe it will land in their hands, and not everybody will read it. Not everybody will like it, but the people that it will help, I believe it will land in their hands. And those are the ones that my book is for. And so that helped me a lot with that whole like scary thing of putting it out in the world as far as writing a book. So I would just say anybody writing a book or wanting to write a book, to know that you are the only person that could write your book, and often we think, well, who am I to write a book? Like that is a thought that comes with, who am I to do this? But who are you not to? Who are you not to? And if somebody were to say to you, why do you think you can write a book? You could just say, or who are you to think that you could write a book? You can just say, well, I'm the one doing it. I'm the one writing it. So that gives me the authority to write it. It's my story. It's my combination of ideas and thoughts or my experiences. And it has value because everyone's voice matters and everyone's story matters. So that's what I would say about that.
So you did like self-published the first one, and then you went with a publisher for the second one. Yeah, well, the one, the current one. And is it like, are they actually helping getting it out there? Because I've had a lot of guests on that actually, they're with publishers, but it's a case of, you have to do all the marketing. They're just there to have it in the different places. Is it similar?
Well, it's a hybrid. So yes, I still have to market it myself. I didn't go find a publisher. I decided that would be a lot of work to try and find somebody. So I went with a hybrid publisher, and she's distributing it and helping me some to get it out there, but it really does come back to you as the author. And so I'm, pretty consistently looking for places to speak about it. And like I said, I'm going to be speaking to this little group soon, just little groups. If I can get in there, and like a friend, no, not a friend, but a client of mine bought 20 of my books and sent to one of her clients, which is a nonprofit in California that helps sex trafficking victims. And that's part of my story. So she just sent them 20 of my books, things like that. If I can find groups that maybe book clubs or, so that's kind of what I'm doing. But on top of that, I also am creating a program that goes with the book to help women, come into like a group program where we can process through some of that stuff, and they have some place to talk it out and to get their story out, and with somebody that can help them do that, because my book does stir up a lot of stuff. And I've had women write to me and say, oh my gosh, this is really, I'm having a hard time reading it because it's triggering stuff. And I'm like, well, you need to be in my program then, so that we can work through this, because it is hard to do it on your own. And I say that a lot in my book. So I created that, and I'm hoping that helps to get my book out there even more. And I'm hoping that my book will open up opportunities for me to speak, to be on stages speaking. So I look at my book more as like a book that can help, that I can use to help with clients, and also a place to opening for speaking. I'm not just relying on the book itself to make me money, because I realize that's not a thing unless you're like Brene Brown or someone.
And the other thing is like the people that are reading that, especially if it's going to the, people that have been through the trafficking and everything, that can have a
Mhm.
massive ripple effect on them. One, because they can become, an advocate and start trying to
Mhm.
help other people, because it's awareness is the thing. Because there's a lot of people, they just put their head down, they just assume this
Yeah.
isn't going on, and it is massive.
Yeah.
Because I
It's
have covered
massive.
it in my awakening podcast, like, and
Mhm.
it's, so I know the depth that it is. So I
Mhm.
think, like, just by getting it into the right hands as well, it can have a massive, and I'm hoping that that's the case. The ripple will go out
Yes.
and it'll create more that will be out talking about this.
Yes, I certainly hope so. And I am connected with one organization that helps. And I actually signed up to be an ambassador for them, which means I can speak about the issue. I haven't done it yet, but I just spoke recently about just sex trafficking, and I'd never given a message totally on the issue. And recently, because of my book, I was asked to speak to a group of young people about it. And it was really powerful. But it's out there so pervasively everywhere. And people don't realize, and it's affecting young people. I mean, it's just horrible, but hopefully my
It's
book will.
high levels as well that are involved. The
Yeah.
politicians all around the
Yes.
world, and like
Yes.
it, because they're in charge, there's nothing done. And I know as well
It's
that
true.
there's people that actually go to the police, and because the whole lot is corrupted and they're involved in that, it's
Mhm.
actually they put the person that has been abused into prison instead of actually going for the politician that has been the. And we just,
Yes.
it's just a case of the more that become aware of this, that
Yes.
then it stops, because
Yes.
it's
Exactly.
rampant.
Yeah. Yep. Yeah. And even I didn't realize it was it, at that level until recently. I started learning more about, what you're saying. It's like unbelievable. So yeah, I'm I'm open to that, like speaking more about it and helping, victims. And hopefully my book can help in some small way, at least, for those that have been through that, to be able to get their life back, and to know that it, usually what you think is that I'm worthless. It's because I'm worthless that this happened. And most victims don't realize they're even being trafficked. That was the name of my presentation I gave recently, was that how can you be trafficked and not know it? Well, let me tell you, because I didn't think I was. I didn't know I was until I was in my 50s and I started unpacking my past. And it was like a huge revelation. I just thought, well, I had become a prostitute and I chose to do it. But then as I started unpacking it, I realized, oh, I was manipulated by my boyfriend. Yeah, he talked me into it, but it was sex trafficking. Like, he knew what he was doing. And because of the state I was in from previous traumas, I was not in any kind of like place to know what was happening. And so that helped me remove the shame and to disconnect it from me and my identity. It wasn't that I was this horrible person. I had been a victim of a person that knew exactly what he was doing. And there was a lot, of mental and emotional control that went on. And I had no idea. He knew what he was doing. I had no idea. you know, he used to always say, well, I didn't put a gun to your head, So, like, wow. So it took me a really long time to even look at it and remember it and talk about it. I just wanted to stuff it away and forget that it ever happened and put it way back in the basement somewhere in a closet, and thinking that, hey, if I never talk about it, if I don't think about it, it won't affect me. It'll go away, but it doesn't. And it didn't. So that's really the purpose of my book. And it's not just for women or men, even who have suffered trauma, that kind of trauma. It could be anything that's, you're afraid to share because you think it's, going to make people not love you or reject you, or that, you think that you're a terrible person because you did this thing or this thing happened to you. When in reality, that is not true at all. You are very valuable and worthy of love, and things happen to all of us, but that does not define who we are. If I could say anything, that would be my message, really, is that, what happens to us does not define who we are. And once we know who we are and how precious and valuable each human being really is, and owning that. Owning my story was a huge turning point for me. Instead of trying to decide to distance myself from that part of my life, I had to actually own it and say, you know what, this did happen. I've been trying to forget it. I've been trying to pretend it didn't happen, but it did. But what does that mean? And how can I take this experience and look at how it's shaped me and the good things that have come out of it? I'm a survivor. I have a lot of resilience. I can overcome many things that maybe I couldn't have before. I know I can get through things because I've been through. And then, how can I take my story and help others? That was a huge part of that, owning the story. And it also brought a wholeness and a healing to me, because I had been so fragmented. When you try to distance yourself from things that have happened to you or from a part of yourself, it just fragments you and you're not fully in your skin, like you're not fully in yourself. And so that experience,
you put up a wall as well, like when
you do
something, and you don't let the good people come in as well. So you have to love yourself. And once you kind of love yourself and kind of understand, look, there's circumstances that it wasn't my fault. And that's the main thing, because if you start blaming yourself, and there's so many things that happen, and then you have to have a kind of forgiveness for other people as well, because some of the people that are doing this, they were brought into that. In other words, they know, it was like they've been, like, I know that sometimes it's even during the pregnancy that they torture, so that it's a chain reaction. So they don't know empathy, they don't know love. And can you hate the person? Because if you look at the baby, can you hate the person because that's who they are? But that's what they were brought up. So it might be a strange analogy. It's like, I've got a wild cat at the moment, right? And he's got a broken leg and everything. And when I try to go closer and he's hissing at me, but I still have compassion for him, because somebody obviously was beating him or whatever. I don't know, but he's like, but still. And it's the same with humans. We have to, not know everybody's journey, because,
it's true.
Like, there's some people that consciously do something that's different, but there's others, they were brought into it and they were abused and they went through a whole system, and we have to try to figure out ways of actually helping them and finding true love as well. And but I love what you're doing, and I know that it'll make a massive impact. And the more people that you get out, the more stages you get on, the more podcasts that you get on, and I know, like on Podmatch, that's a brilliant platform for connecting with the right people.
Yes, it is. Yeah. And that's really my mission this year with the book coming out, is to get on as many podcasts and summits and stages that I can to share my story and my book and about this whole issue. And not only trafficking, but I was also drugged and raped. So there's that too. And that happens massively, and again, I didn't realize that it happened. I thought it was my fault. It didn't dawn on me that I'd been drugged for 30 years. And this is what keeps people in that cloak of shame is. So, a part of my book is talking about tell yourself the truth. Like, let's discover what was really true and what's not true, because what you believe is true is not always the truth. And yet you're living according to it because you believe it's true. And that's what's keeping you playing small. And like, for me, I was very timid. I wouldn't speak up. I didn't, I can't tell my story. I mean, what will people think of me? Right. And so I would make something up. And so I was not being me. I wasn't authentic, and I wouldn't let people very close. Like you said, I had a wall up, and that is not living, And so tell yourself the truth. What is the truth of everything that's happened to you? And that will just awaken you and cause that shame to just melt away. And then what emerges is, for me, it was like, oh, this is me. Oh, and I started feeling confident and good about who I am. And I realized I was starting to really love who I am. It was incredible. And the freedom that comes with that, and just being comfortable in your own skin and, pursuing those things that are in you that fire you up, that light you up, and not feeling like, well, I can't do that because what if people find out this other thing? I mean, that's just, so it's really going from like living in a prison cell basically to living free. That's what it feels like.
I mean, I think that's the thing. Once your authentic self, nobody then can come up and go blackmail you or do anything. It's like,
Yeah.
this is who I am. You're with me or you're not. And you
Yep.
surround yourself with the people that really care. Then instead of kind of trying to be, because I know a lot of people, they're trying to be somebody else and they're worried that, oh, what if they find out about this? And it's like, you're not yourself. And it just curious as well, because like with the meditation podcast, and I've experienced a lot of breath work. Is that something that you've done? Because I know a lot of people, just from being at events as well, like by going through the breath work, it's like the memories come back and people actually remember things even from when they were 3 and 4. Is that something that you have done?
Yeah, definitely. I realized that I was holding my breath a lot, breathing very shallowly, because you're always like, when you're holding that wall in front of yourself, So I began to do a lot of meditation, prayer. I'm a very spiritual person, and really that's what helped me the most. Spending time, always starting off with the breath work, because that calms everything down. And then you're able to, let all the flurry of thoughts kind of calm down. And then you're able to actually go in deeper to your true self, and listen to those things that are there and let them come up to the surface. That's how in my journals, like that's where it came from, was me sitting there, breathing and meditating and listening and letting God, speak to my heart, and things would come to me. They would sort of like float up from my heart into my mind. And I'd be like, whoa, that's amazing. And I would write it down. And I knew it wasn't really wasn't coming from me. It was coming from my spirit, I think, and just communicating with God, and things that would come back to me that when you're in trauma, you don't remember a lot of details because that's how you survive it. And for me, I spent a lot of times disassociating when I was being trafficked, especially. I would just go to somewhere else every time. And I got so used to doing that, so good at doing that and shutting down my emotions that I couldn't feel anymore. And so I had to really sit with that. I had to let emotions come up that had been stuffed away. And when all the realization started coming up of what had actually happened to me, I remember laying on the floor, just weeping and letting all of the emotion that I had not allowed myself to feel come up and out, and grieving really for my younger self and what had been stolen from me, and going from a place of being ashamed of her to actually embracing her with compassion. And that was that allowed me to talk about my story. Because a lot of times women will say, how can you tell your story so easily and just put it out there? I really admire you. You're just speaking it out there. And I'm like, yeah, it's out now, so it's not a secret anymore. So it doesn't really have power over me anymore, and people will do with it whatever they will, but it's my story and I lived it. And just coming to that place of letting it all out, that really comes from breathing and meditating and allowing yourself that space to go deeper and access those things that are really like deep in the subconscious. I had one coach said, you're surfacing the invisibles. I'm like, yes. What a great way to put it.
Yeah, I like that. I haven't heard that one before. That's a lovely way of saying it.
Yeah, I thought so. So, and that's what I love to help others do. So when I can see that happen and somebody accesses their freedom, basically, and the light comes on, their whole countenance changes and the burdens fall away. It's just amazing. There's nothing better. So that's my quest.
I love it. And I'll make sure I'm going to put this on the meditation and the awakening as well, because I know that the trafficking is a massive thing. And the more people that can actually, get that and hear it, because they can also perhaps even share what you're doing and share the book with the people they know that have, they haven't kind of gone through the journey yet. They're in the darkness, and it's something like that. Just the right book can actually open the doors and let the sun shining.
Yes, absolutely. And I would love to have more, whoever really needs it to come into the program. It's called Shine Your Light. inner circle, and it's a very safe place. It's going to start in June. We're going to go for 12 weeks, go through the book and the workbook, and it'll be a safe place to actually begin, maybe for the first time, talking about things. And you'll be in a safe place because I have been there. So, and everyone will be in agreement. We'll have an agreement that everything's held confidentially, and that'll be a very important part of it. So that's another thing I want to start getting the word out about right now. I'm starting with just a few women that have reached out to me, but that will be something that's going to be available, probably 2 or 3 times a year, maybe. So, because, you need a place to go, and maybe they won't know where to go. And if they can sign up for that program, I'm even trying to start a scholarship to help pay for those women that can't afford it, because I can't do it for free, unfortunately. But
exactly. It's like, bills have to be paid and everything. Yeah. But I mean,
exactly.
Still a scholarship. Yeah.
But anybody that contributes to the scholarship, I'm going to match it. So basically up to half the program. So I'll actually be giving half the program. But if people donate to just certain people, like they'd have to apply, they're going to have to apply, and it would only be a couple of women per cycle that I could do that for. But there's one in particular right now. She's like ready to do it. I mean, she came from a rough, background and a lot of abuse out of an abusive marriage, and is trying to pull herself together and has not been able to get free of all the trauma. And she's like, I want to be in your program. And she can't afford it. She's a mother of 4, single mother of 4. So I'm going to help her. I'm going to get her in there. But it's women like that. Like, I know I can't help everyone, but I can help a few. So.
Yeah. And I think that's the thing, just help one and then the next. And I think the people that have been helped are the ones that help others, because they understand the power of it. And
so true. Yes. And then they can start stepping into their own power and doing what they're called to do. And then, it's a ripple effect. Exactly. So love it.
Brilliant. So I wish you super success. You might let people know, where can they find you?
Sure. Well, they can find me. I have a website, emerginglifecoaching.com, and I'm on Facebook. It's also Emerging Life Coaching is my Facebook page. I also have an author page, Janelle Anderson, I think, or no, Janelle Anderson author is how you find that one. And then I'm on LinkedIn, also Emerging Life Coaching. And if they want to email me, Janelle@emerginglifecoaching.com. So I'd love to hear from everyone that wants to reach out to me.
Okay, perfect. Yeah, I'll make sure I put the links in both the audio and the video.
Okay, wonderful. Thank you.
So that's all for the Speaking Podcast and the Awakening Podcast and the Meditation Podcast, because as mentioned, I'm going to put them out on all 3, because this is very important. And I've covered this deeply in the Awakening Podcast, and I'll actually give a link to the episode that I mentioned as well. So sure to give us a thumbs up, 5-star rating, subscribe. Until next week, take care.